Hello and welcome to EVC Learning Studio. Today we have with us Paras Gupta, Vice President of Finvox Analytics. Welcome Paras to EVC Learning.
Thank you, President.
Paras, let's start about your education from the beginning. So you did your graduation in commerce from Punjab University. How did that came about?
So, after clearing my 12th in 2012, I started my CA and my graduation together. So this is how I started my journey, and thereafter I completed my CA in 2017.
So I was wondering, how did you decide that you wanted to become a chartered accountant? Did that come very early in your age? What were your influences and motivations, or any role models or idols?
Sure. So I would share, I will say that I was not very much keen interested towards the studies, and was very fun-loving kind of student, and was more inclined towards my hobbies, which is as of now. I want to be a musician, but some of the events happened during my childhood days, and I came to know that my father also aspired to be a chartered accountant, but somehow he was not able to pursue it, and that was one of the trigger that inspired to do CA. Though I was very good in the mathematics, and my school teachers used to tell me that choose science and be into the engineering field. But I probably in class 7th or 8th, I decided that I will be going to for a CA only.
Right.
Yeah.
So you preferred the music of numbers than the notes.
Obviously. So this is how this turnaround.
Right. So tell us your work experience after you did your graduation and CA. Where all did you work and how did you land up at Finvox?
So this is also a very interesting event. I started my internship as a CA in 2014 with a CA firm in Lakshminagar, wherein I got inclined or I got exposed to different kind of work, probably audits. We have conducted many audits, especially in the banking sector and the manufacturing sector. Thereafter, I was also being very indulged into the compliance of taxations like service tax and income tax. But somehow those things are not which always inspired me, or I would not be able to correlate with those all things. So that's why, and one of them, another field was there is the debt syndication and the fundraising. So that was the practice which always inspired me. So, but the quantum of work in that field was not too much, so I just took a switch. And then in 2015, Finvox was incorporated. I joined Gandharv and Amrish, and I do remember that I was the one who filed the incorporation form in the Finvox. And starting from a team of 4 or 5 people, now landing up to approximately 45 team is a very good journey I have seen together.
Right. Yeah. So tell us more about your work at Finvox. What is your typical day at Finvox as a chartered accountant?
Yeah. So to tell about my day, it is every day is a new day for me because being working into the corporate finance and being a very dynamic sector, you always encounter different kind of things. Maybe it is related to an instrument, maybe it is related to a company, or maybe the nuances which are going in and around the industry. Like there was a boom currently which is going on in the fintech. Earlier it was a technology companies. So ultimately when you encounter these kind of situations, it always motivates you. So like I have mentioned about the technology companies and the fintech companies, and this is how if every day is a new day, you always have new energies and new motivation to come and work.
So Paras, tell us about your exposure to law for the very first time while you were studying for your chartered accountancy. So how has been your relationship with law? Did it excite you while you were preparing for your CA exams? And later on in your practice as well, you encounter a lot of law with your core finance practice. So tell us about that sweet balance and the music of law and numbers.
Yeah, so like I mentioned to you about that, I was more inclined towards the debt syndication or the equity fundraising, which were more related to the finance. So my favorite subjects were generally accounting and the strategic financial management. I was not very keen or very inclined towards law subjects, but as a part of curriculum, and if you have to sustain into the market as a professional, it is very crucial to have the broad understanding of the laws and specifically the niche understanding of those specific sections or provisions which you are encountering on a daily basis. So I kept myself too very restricted around the laws. I am not very much like I will be indulged in litigation or everything. But yeah, I have a working knowledge which I use, which is essential for my day-to-day work and for my professional needs.
Right.
Yeah.
So let us take this conversation from here. Your involvement in terms of the design of the curriculum of the advanced corporate law has been very crucial and critical when it comes to the deal process, the structure. You were part in conversation with our editors while designing the advanced corporate law course. So what do you want? Do you want to address our students about the general outline and the framework of the course, which you contributed a lot apart from your own classes, which would come later? But just a general comment about the look and feel of the advanced corporate law program.
So I would say as EBC, we try to integrate multiple subjects. Maybe it is corporate law, it will be a merger process, and then merging it with the finance as an angle, and then integrating it with the practical world. That is something which was a case study with us, and to integrate all those things as ultimately ended up very good. And we hope that you all will be encountered to, or I would say students will have a very gist and deep knowledge of each and every subject and linking that to the practical aspect as well.
Right. So let's come to your own class, which is on basics of accountings and financial statements. How much do you think it's important for a law student or a legal practitioner to know how to look at books? And how much is important and how much is really not required?
So I will say accounting is a language for the business. Like we used to learn languages, English, Hindi. We used to first read the sentences and the words, and thereafter we are able to communicate and do things. But similarly, the accounting is again a language to understand the financial statements or the results which companies publish, or you are maybe supposedly doing a merger for any company. So you must have to effectively evaluate that which company is valued how much and what are the strengths of that company as a financial strengths and how the second company is being merged into it. And all those things will ultimately coincide when you will be learning the basics only. So everything starts from the basics, and to learn or to understand the financial statements, it is very crucial to understand the basics and to understand that language. Yeah. What is asset? What is liability? Everything is, I would say, are the terminologies as we learn and grab, and then we comprehend while reading the financial statements.
Right. So just like learning the basics of financial statements or looking at the schedule of the Companies Act and understanding the process or learning the basic language, as you said. So while financial due diligence as well, and there are different other types of due diligence as well. So for a law student or a lawyer or as a practitioner, how important it is to understand that language?
Yeah, obviously it is very important to understand that language. So suppose you are advising a company and that company is going to raise funds from some investor. An investor has get a diligence done for your company. Now a professional has issued a report, and as a lawyer you are managing the complete transaction and you are not able to understand the findings which have been highlighted by the professional. Then there is no use of, I would say, managing or advising client to for the complete transaction. So ultimately you should have some knowledge so that you can understand what the professional is highlighting, and that is something as a lawyer or as a any transaction advisor should know.
Right. Paras, tell us about your class on basics of accounting that you have curated. And we have tried to keep it as a workshop mode where all the learning of the basic rules, etc., would be done by the books and the videos that are provided. So how do you deal with this challenge of lawyers and various other professionals who have absolutely no knowledge of numbers? So, how do you take up that challenge, and how have you designed the exercises so that it is good enough for them to understand the language, but also not deep enough so that they feel out of water?
Yeah. So it is a very challenging task for me to give a gist of accounts and the financial statements to the people who are not even being client, or I would say never exposed to these kind of terminologies.
For a person like
Yeah.
who has never seen a balance sheet, for example.
Obviously. So being it is a language, it is ultimately going to be a lecture based only. It cannot be a case study. But yeah, language is something when you practice more, you will get more out of it. So accounting is again linked to the practice. I may be helping you in doing multiple examples and understand the terminologies and linking those terminologies with the balance sheets or the profit and loss. But ultimately there cannot be some case studies, or there cannot be some workshops for it. It is more kind of lecture based module for me, especially for the accounting. But yeah, I am also giving lectures in some other institutes, maybe CMA Institute, RVO Institute, where I given lecture on the valuations and everything. Those kind of lectures are more case study and interactive, as compared to accounting, where you have to just impart the basic knowledge for finance, or I would say the financial statements.
Right. How useful your sessions would be on the basics of accounting, the basic lecturing on the accounting rules and other regulations that they have to abide by, and basic things, how to read a financial statement. How useful it would be for them when they are going to other advanced modules in the course on insolvency, or let's say for competition law, or on corporate fraud, or perhaps insider trading. So how useful would be these basics of accounting important at the beginning of the course, so that the rest of the course is smooth and they could have more understanding and knowledge where they have to do things by themselves?
As it is always said that if you have a strong foundation, you can create big buildings. And accounting is again a foundation for all these things. If you are not able to understand accounts, how you will be able to understand how the fraud has been happened in the financial statements? So ultimately, first of all, that is a foundation, and you have to first read it, understand it, and then comprehend it in the or apply it in the different modules.
Correct.
So ultimately, to understand those modules, there may be a situation that some instructor is telling you about the fraud process, and you are not able to understand which item of the balance sheet or which part of the profit and loss has been manipulated to create that fraud.
Right. So put the red flags. You really need to know the place where to put the flag.
Yeah, obviously.
Great. Paras, tell me how important it is for someone to upskill, so continuous education, even while you're working as a professional. How important it is for a student or a professional to upskill themselves?
See, I believe learning never stops. You always keep on learning things, and when you keep on learning, somewhere in the future, that learning may help you. So I will tell you one of my learning stories. So I will not say it is a failure, but it is a learning for me. I post completing my chartered accountancy, I started my FRM, which is from US, and it is like financial risk management as a course. I prepared for it. Somehow, some of circumstances, I was not able to give the exam. But yeah, the learnings which I have taken from that particular course are something related to derivatives, something related to modeling and everything. And those helped me in my practical world after 2017 when INDES is applied. So you have to value different combined instruments like supposedly optionally convertible debentures. So it is a debenture but with an option to convert. So ultimately, this is not a simple debenture, it has a combination of two instruments. So INDES requires you to value these instruments separately.
Correct.
So to understand the nitty-gritties of these kind of instruments and then comprehending or putting it into a different models or statistical models, though I was always been a maths student and always being love for the maths. So statistics and everything helped me, and this course specifically FRM also helped me to comprehend all these models in a very interesting way. And I have been one of the key, I would say, the person in my organization as of now who is responsible for managing all these derivatives and different combined instruments or modeling all these things.
Right.
So this is how being a chartered accountant, though I have upskilled myself, I was not able to give the exam, but still those learnings helped me. So ultimately, learning is something that you will be doing it, and it will always help you. Some or the other day, it will be helping you.
Right. So that's about learning. But what about teaching? What motivates you to teach?
Yeah. So I will share two incidents. So I used to teach during my school days maths to my friends. So my friends used to say that you are teaching much better than the teacher what has told to us. So that was one of the key trait I would say I exposed to by my friends, that this is how I would say, okay, I explain things better and explain in an easy way. Secondly, when I was doing my internship, so I went to a budget session, and the speaker was Dr. Girish Udha sir. He's one of the renowned tax expert in the CA fraternity. And when he was giving the budget speech or the analysis of the budget, and the audience was approximately 400 kind of people, and everyone was so indulged. I still remember that those 2 hours, how it went, I still not able to understand, but the learnings I have encountered from him, and he is approximately will be in his 70s. So the kind of energy he has, and still he is giving such lectures, still he is giving such presentations, but the motivation he always drives, and that was a trigger point that I always aspired to address such kind of audience, maybe in future.
Right. But you're still addressing such
Yeah.
audiences online.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
perhaps you have more reach. Then people don't have to sit into one room. So
Obviously,
maybe, yeah.
yeah. EBC is giving us that opportunity to do that, but still that aspiration is in the mind.
True.
And that was the trigger point, I would say. I was more inclined to give sessions and take lectures and everything.
Right, right. So we are at the conclusion of this interview. Would you like to give any parting advice to our students, and would like to answer any questions which we perhaps ignored to ask you?
I think most of the questions have been asked, but I will tell two advice. One is, despite of the technical knowledge, you are upskilling, always follow your passion also. Like apart from the studies, I am also doing my music graduation. I have already completed 3 4 classes, and that is something which is in addition to it, and it always makes me happy, or I would say it always motivates me to take up challenges, because that is a leisure time, or I would say that is a stress buster for me. Right. So always, along with whatever you are doing as a professional, it is always good to have some passion with you. It may be a sport, it may be a art, it may be anything. Right. And second, I do remember one of the sayings my college professor used to say, that the busiest person is the happiest person in the life. So I corrected it. The busiest person in the productive works is the happiest person in the life. Right. So try to keep yourself busy, and if you work, you just keep yourself busy in the productive works. You will always get a return too, but you will be away from the negativities also. So this is something which is my advice or my life learning from my teachers. Thank you so much for inviting me at the interview.
Thank you, Paras, for coming to EBC Learning Studio. You were able to manage time for us. Thank you very much. Paras Gupta, Vice President, Finvox Analytics. Thank you.
Thank you.